The news on Wednesday, September 10, 2025 was stark and shocking. Charlie Kirk, a towering figure in the conservative movement, was dead at the age of 31. His life was tragically cut short by a single gunshot during a speaking event in Orem, Utah, an act that Utah Governor Spencer Cox immediately labeled a political assassination. Kirk's passing sent ripples of grief and outrage through the political world, leaving a void where a uniquely powerful and determined voice once stood. He was a man who, from a remarkably young age, dedicated his life to the principles of freedom, individual liberty, and the foundational values of Western civilization. His death was not just the loss of a man, but the silencing of a champion for a generation of conservatives he inspired. Charlie Kirk's journey began, not in the hallowed halls of Ivy League institutions, but in the suburbs of Chicago, Illinois. Born into a middle-class family, his early life was marked by an intellectual curiosity and a palpable ambition that set him apart. He attended Wheeling High School, where he was already honing his skills as a writer and a debater, contributing to Breitbart News even as a teenager. His path diverged from the traditional route when he chose to forego a college education. Instead of enrolling at Baylor University, where he had been accepted, Kirk decided to dedicate himself full-time to political activism. This decision would prove to be the foundational stone upon which his entire career was built. At the tender age of 18, with the financial backing of conservative donor Foster Friess, Kirk launched Turning Point USA in 2012. It was an audacious endeavor for someone so young, an organization founded with the express purpose of identifying, organizing, and empowering young conservative students across the country. He saw a landscape dominated by left-wing orthodoxy and sought to build a counter-narrative, a grassroots army to reclaim the intellectual territory he felt had been lost. He began traveling from campus to campus, setting up tables, handing out literature, and engaging students in face-to-face debates. He was not content to preach to the choir. He actively sought out disagreement and confrontation, believing that the strength of conservative ideas would prevail in the open marketplace of intellectual combat. This hands-on grassroots approach defined his early years and became the signature style of Turning Point USA, laying the groundwork for what would become a nationwide political phenomenon. He became a key ally of Donald J. Trump, recognizing early on the populist appeal that would reshape the Republican Party. Kirk and Turning Point USA threw their considerable weight behind Trump's campaigns, mobilizing their vast network of student activists to knock on doors, make phone calls, and spread the message online. His influence was particularly crucial in President Trump's successful 2024 presidential victory. Charlie Kirk was never one to shy away from a fight. His public persona was built on a pugnacious, unapologetic debate style. He invited students to challenge him on any topic. Encounters were frequently contentious. Kirk calmly, methodically dismantled arguments. Issues, economics, issues, social policy. He thrived in adversarial settings. He saw them as opportunities to expose what he called the intellectual bankruptcy of modern leftism, an unabashed Christian conservative, abortion, Second Amendment, LGBTQ rights. He framed gender and marriage in traditional biblical terms. Critics called those views discriminatory and harmful. He never backed down, fighting for the soul of the nation, as he put it. He engaged with sensitive, historical, and racial issues. Criticism over his commentary on the Civil Rights Act of 1964, critiques of figures like Martin Luther King Jr. opponents, said he was rewriting history and undermining civil rights progress. He promoted what he called Christian nationalism, the belief that America's founding is tied to Christian values. Backlash over amplifying COVID-19 misinformation. Promotion of claims of widespread fraud in the 2020 election. A pariah to the left, a hero to a large segment of the right. For them, controversy was proof he was challenging the progressive establishment. The final chapter of Charlie Kirk's life was tragically written on the campus of Utah Valley University. He was there to kick off a 14-city fall tour titled The American Comeback Tour, doing exactly what had first brought him to prominence, engaging directly with students. As he stood answering a question from the audience, ironically about the issue of mass shootings, a single shot fired from a distance ended his life. The brutal act, carried out by a suspect dressed in dark clothing, sent shockwaves of horror across the nation. It was a violent end to a life lived on the front lines of a political and cultural war, a life dedicated to the power of speech and debate. The reaction to his death was immediate and deeply polarized. On the right there was an outpouring of grief and fury. Friends, allies, and followers mourned the loss of a leader, a mentor, and a friend. Israeli leaders remembered him as a lion-hearted friend of Israel. Conservatives in America hailed him as a martyr for freedom of speech, murdered for his convictions. President Trump's eulogy captured the sentiment of many. Conversely, reactions from his staunchest political opponents were more complex. While mainstream political figures from across the aisle, including former President Barack Obama, condemned the violence in no uncertain terms, Charlie Kirk's legacy is that of a trailblazer who fundamentally altered the landscape of young conservatism in America. Whether viewed as a hero or a demagogue, one fact is undeniable. Charlie Kirk was a consequential figure whose impact will be felt for years to come. A powerful voice for his cause, silenced far too soon.